wanted to start with this piece, which is it's called the David vases from like 13th century. And one thing I just found really funny this morning, she told me, was that they're called the David vases because of the curator who stole them to England, so he named them after himself. So anyway, but one of the interesting things about this was that her work beforehand was all about like kind of a Western culture sort of imposing itself on them. And this one is a little bit different. This is transitioning into an idea that the culture is coming from the West into and by this point being the color blue. Cobalt blue came from Persia. It was a Persian color that was foreign to China at the time, at the 13th century. So these were like technological like marvels at the time too. I mean, people just were astonished by these, and started the whole process. And there might have been ones earlier, but these are the only known ones, the oldest known ones. The fact that they're now in England and England will never return them. They're just a great example of appropriation of a big empire on cultures that they ruled for a time. And I guess so that I think Britain was in charge of China for centuries, right? So yeah, this piece is an interesting piece in that it was kind of a transitional piece, and that one of the critiques that happened here with these images, and she showed me some of the images that inspired these, and it's just this onslaught of like technical and Western culture pushed onto these people. Somebody asked where's the information going? So then she thought of this idea that the information was being pulled out of a culture, and so that was kind of like preliminary. And this was something that when did you finish this? It was at some point during the break.
Yeah. It's before the New Year, like the end of December.
So then she moved on to these pieces here, which are on paper. They're drawings. They're also vases. An interesting thing about this, the vases are also painted, but in her interpretation, they're starting to become clear or completely covered, just dark. But then you start seeing this real introduction of texture into all the work. And these are clouds and leaves, all natural things. And same with this. So then after this idea kind of starts bringing more and more texture, because I think these are sort of like a little minimalist. She had these new ones and was hoping to kind of get some feedback on them by, she's brought like pieces of rice paper that she's layered and colored all herself. That's another interesting, back to this one real quick, is that how the blue is a mix of ink and cobalt blue ink, right? And so it's not, so it's just different levels mixed with something white. So to get different levels and layers and stuff. But yeah, so again, this is kind of the new pieces. This is the new direction that she wants to go in, or she's going in. And this is like a little leaf laid on it, and again, just to play with your all senses. And it's not just the flatness of the image, but the actual three-dimensional quality of the pieces. I think that might be it.
Thank you, John.
There is. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry.
No.
David, on that note, I was wondering, like, how do you see this work?
I think, I was a big fan of this work. I saw this over the break. She posted this image on Instagram and some history, which I found fascinating. And actually, on my own, I started looking it up. And as I was telling her, I had trouble finding actually the images of the David faces at the National Gallery, but they're there. I think that there's one paradox about it which I find interesting, is that the National Gallery, is it the National British Museum?
British Museum.
British Museum. They claim that they saved these because they would have been lost or destroyed, and very potentially would have been destroyed in the Cultural Revolution. But nevertheless, like, they don't return anything, and they say the same thing to Greece, say the same thing to all the countries that are kind of in power, and it's this, in my opinion, this tremendous bullshit. That what great opportunity they would have to return these objects. Yeah, they did say great, and then they're not theirs. So it's just kind of it's just another way to cover the empire, and it's very sad because England's empires collapsed, but they still cling to this idea that they were saving the world while ruling it. So I don't know. Visually, I find it really arresting. So, and I do like especially the move to the textures and colors. It's very, very exciting. For me, I find it very exciting.